Hello, children. So here we are with the second lecture of your first chapter, that is reproduction in organism. In previous lecture, we have discussed about the lifespan, different phases of the lifespan, and in that phases we got to know that there is a one phase in the lifespan is the reproduction, and along with that we got to know about in previous lecture concept map of this chapter, what we are going to study in this chapter. Chapter is categorized into different phases, means asexual, sexual, then different phases of sexual reproduction that we got to know in that previous lecture. So here we start with the important phase of the lifespan that we call as a reproduction. So as you know, every living organism passes through defined stages of life cycle. It takes birth, matures, reproduces, and finally dies. So reproduction is one of the fundamental characteristics of living organism through which each organism species ensure its continuity. It's a biological process, you know very well from your previous study also. It's a biological process in which an organism gives rise to young ones, or you can say offspring similar to itself. It also maintains the continuation of the life cycle, means birth, growth, and death. What are the different functions that are done by this process? If you say in a point wise, so first point by reproduction is the maintains life on earth. If there is no reproduction, if organisms are not reproducing, so what will happen, you know very well, the existence of that species is going to be finished. Second point, if you say for the reproduction, is what it enables continuity of the species, that I have told you, generation after generation. Third point is the creates genetic variation among population. What is the meaning of this point? Creates genetic variation among population. It means if the same kind of species are producing by different organism, they are having a same kind of need, same kind of habitat, same kind of food, and the requirement of that habitat and food is going to be increased day by day. If the variation is coming, so what will happen, the need is different, habitat is different, and the possibility of the existence and possibility of the life is going to be increased. If the same thing is needed by the every organism, so what will happen, they will fight for that. So maybe some of the species is going to survive, some of the species may be not able to survive. So that's why again there is a one important point in reproduction, and a category of that kind of reproduction is the sexual reproduction. In that, genetic variation always comes. If you talk about the another point of the reproduction, so what is that, maintains population of the young adult and the aged person. Yeah, it's correct, very much. What happened when a baby takes a birth, it's grow, it's mature, and it's going to be aged. So if lifespan is not there, what happens, there is no different phases of the life. Individual is not going to be grow, and again there is a struggle of the species. So again, what it maintains the continuation of the life. Several factors like organisms' habitat, internal physiology, environmental conditions determine how an organism reproduces. Okay, types of reproduction. If you see surrounding to yourself, you will see there is a number of variety of organisms. Some of just like similar to their parents, some are a little bit different, some are more different. How it is possible? Now you know very well by this chapter the forming of the current new generation is just by this process. So how the organisms are generation to generation, they are different to each other. So I have told you in the previous slide, it depends on what, it depends on the number of factors, for example habitat, its internal physiology, and other factors collectively responsible how the organism is going to reproduce. So based on this, or based on these in factors, there is another thing that is very important for the reproduction, and on the basis of that, this process is two type. One is known as the asexual mode of reproduction, and second one is known as the sexual mode of reproduction. If we talk about the asexual mode, you know very well, means when there is a participation of just one parent. A single parent is responsible for the continuation of life. That mode of reproduction is known as asexual mode. And when there is a participation of two parents, means participation of the two opposite sex during this process, that process is known as sexual reproduction. If you see the difference between asexual and sexual mode, so again there is a one difference. What is that? If I am saying there is a participation of just one parent, it means there is no need of gamete formation. There is no differentiation between the male and female gamete. If you talk about the sexual mode, again there is a gamete formation. One behave as a male gamete and second one behave as a female gamete. Okay, you know very well, if we talk about the male gamete and female gamete, so by your previous study in 10th, I have told you already, if there is a gamete formation, so there is a one process participate that we call as a meiosis. And if there is no gamete formation, means the meiosis doesn't take place. So again, there is a difference between asexual and sexual mode is what? In asexual mode, there is just a one type of cell division take place that we call as a mitosis, means the same type of chromosomes number is passing from parents to the offspring cell. For example, if we talk about the amoeba parent is having a chromosome number, the same chromosomes number will go to the offspring. But when we talk about the sexual mode, that time there is a mitosis and meiosis both take place. It means if we take the example of human beings, you know very well, we are having a the two end numbers, means we are having a 23 pairs of chromosomes number in our body. When there is a gamete formation, so what happens? The 23 pairs is going to be reduced into half during the gamete formation, and that process is known as meiosis. In meiosis, there is a formation of gamete, male and female gamete, and in that, what happens? The chromosomes number is going to be just half. Male gamete is having a 23 chromosomes in number, and female gamete is having a chromosomes 23 in number. When male and female gamete fuse, that time there is a zygote formation, and in zygote formation there is a again 23 pairs chromosomes number, and this zygote is uh, gradually divide and change into what? A embryo. It means when the zygote start dividing, change into the embryo and fetus and finally into the baby, so that time there is a same kind of chromosomes number is passing by the cell division. So now you see very well, now you can understand very well, in sexual reproduction there is a mitosis as well as meiosis type of cell division take place, but in asexual mode just a one type of cell division take place that we call as a mitosis. So here in this slide, I am showing the one of the mode of this process, that is the asexual mode. And asexual mode is again categorized into different forms. For example, binary fission, multiple fission, budding, fragmentation, sporulation, and vegetative propagation. Among all these asexual mode, binary fission, multiple fission, budding, fragmentation, and sporulation, it just categorize, if you broadly say, it just comes within the animals. And if we talk about the vegetative propagation, it just restricted to the plants. This type of asexual mode just happens where? In the plant. If you talk about the vegetative propagation, again vegetative propagation categorized into two that you are seeing in this PPT, that is what? Natural and artificial vegetative propagation. Natural, what is the meaning of vegetative propagation? That we will discuss in this chapter when we reach up to there. So here I am just giving a brief introduction of different type of asexual mode. Natural, if we talk about the vegetative propagation, natural and artificial. Natural means if the formation of a new plants by the root, by the stem, by the leaf, so that time we call it as a natural. And artificial means we are participating in the formation of new plant by different process, for example cutting, grafting, layering, and tissue culture. So this is about the plant asexual mode. Now, again, if we talk about the binary fission, multiple fission, so binary fission, you know very well, the binary fission just take place in a unicellular, very common unicellular organism, for example, amoeba. Multiple fission means when there is a formation of more than one offspring or more than one daughter cell by a single parent cell, that we call as a multiple fission. Budding, when there is a formation of a bud and by that bud there is a formation of a new daughter cell, that we call as a budding. Fragmentation means when there is a part of the plant, part of the animal body is going to form a new body, that we call as a fragmentation. Sporulation is just means when the spores are responsible for the formation of new offspring or new daughter cell, that we call as a sporulation. All these mode of asexual mode we will discuss in the coming PPT one by one. So here we come with the asexual reproduction in animals. In this method, now you know very well, offsprings are just produced by parents by a single individual. So that's why we call it a asexual mode. It generally take place in a unicellular organism, for example, monarians and protistians. And some lower animals also, this type of mode takes place, for example, sponges, coelentrates, and certain worms also. So in a asexual mode, if you talk about what happens, the parent cell means a single individual divide and they produce a new offspring, means whatever is present in the parent cell, it is going to the offspring. And the parent cell sometimes lose its identity, sometimes they regain their shape, but whatever is present in the parent cell, that exactly pass to the daughter cell. So that's why we can say that what happen in asexual mode, the offspring produced are genetically and morphologically similar to their parents. And if the offsprings are genetically and morphologically similar to their parents, that time we use a one term, that term is known as a clone. But number of time it is discussed that uh, is the word we are using clone for the asexual mode is correct, or always there is a possibility of morphologically and genetically similarity between the offspring. So it depends on, I have told you in the previous slide also, it depends on the number of other factor also, environmental factors, habitat of the organism. For example, if the any unicellular organism start reproducing, that time maybe a temperature, environmental factors are certain something else, and during the process of this division the environmental factors is going to be changed. So that time there is a possibility of little bit variation. So you can say in that way, sometimes they are exactly um, identical copies of their parents. Sometimes they are morphologically as well as genetically similar to their parents, and that time we call it as a clone. And if it is not, there is a certain variation, maybe the term clone we cannot use. So this is about the asexual, or you can say the term clone, how we can describe it. Now you can see in this PPT there is a two diagram is given. One is the binary fission in amoeba and second one is the budding in yeast. In the previous slide I have shown you that there is a one of the mode in asexual is, what is that? Binary fission. What is binary fission? It is the division of the parent cell into the two daughter cell nearly equal in size, and each of which rapidly grow into an adult. A common example of binary fission is the amoeba, paramecium. It means protistian is the common example of binary fission. You see in this diagram there is a one parent cell, that actually this is the diagram of amoeba, binary fission in amoeba. In the parent cell it is start stretching, plasma membrane is going to be stretched, and in the second diagram it is going to again it is going to enlarge little bit. Then in third diagram you can see very well there is what, there is a stretching of the nucleus start dividing into the two, and followed by there is a constriction where in the plasma membrane of the amoeba cell, and when it is reaches up to the center, means up to the nucleus almost divide, and that time there is a division of the plasma membrane also, and formation of the two daughter cell. So what I am trying to say, in you can see in this diagram, there is what, there is a karyokinesis followed by the cytokinesis. Now I have used two terms, what is karyokinesis and cytokinesis. So what is karyokinesis? Karyokinesis means division of the nucleus in any individual cell, followed by the cytokinesis means division of the cytoplasm or followed by the plasma membrane. So number of times we have asked in binary fission what happens first. It's a cytokinesis followed by the karyokinesis, or karyokinesis followed by the cytokinesis. So always in binary fission in amoeba, karyokinesis is followed by the cytokinesis. There is another mode of asexual reproduction is the multiple fission. In multiple fission is what? It is the division of the parent's body into many daughter cell simultaneously, and each of the daughter cell grow into the adult. So what is the difference between the binary fission and multiple fission? In binary fission, there is just a formation of two almost equal daughter cell, and in multiple fission, there is a formation of a more than two daughter cell, and it is not necessary all of them is having a equal size. Multiple fission take place, you know very well, one example of the multiple fission is what? Plasmodium. Plasmodium is a malarial parasite, and amoeba also sometimes reproduce. It's very important to remember, sometimes amoeba also reproduce by the multiple fission during the unfavorable condition, and that time there is a formation of a cyst around surround to the amoeba cell, and when the condition is going to be favorable, the nucleus that is inside the amoeba cell is coming out by bursting of that cyst cell, and number of amoeba reproduce. So multiple fission, there is a example of what? Plasmodium, and in unfavorable condition amoeba also. A second diagram is given, that is a budding in yeast. This is also one of the type of asexual mode. You can see in this diagram a parent yeast cell is given, and from the plasma membrane of the yeast cell there is a formation of a bud, and the bud is gradually grow and finally detached from the parent body. So how the new yeast cell is formed? It just formed by the bud. That's why we call it as a budding in yeast. Now you see in that both the diagram, there is a one difference, a very big difference is there. If you see the diagram of amoeba, there is what? There is a karyokinesis. But if you see the budding in yeast, there is what? Cytokinesis. In budding, what happens? Cytokinesis is followed by the karyokinesis. But if you see the case of amoeba, as I have told you, always karyokinesis followed by the cytokinesis. So in this PPT, I am showing you four diagram. One is the chlamydomonas, second one is the penicillium, third one is the hydra, and fourth one is the sponges. These diagram are showing actually a different type of asexual mode. If you see the lowest two diagram, that is a hydra and sponges, especially we consider these two diagram first of all. These two diagrams is actually showing the differentiation between budding also. If you see the budding categorized into two, one is known as the external budding and second one is known as the internal budding. By its name you can understand very well, when the bud formation is takes place outside of the body, that time it's known as the external budding, and if it is take place inside the body, that time it is known as the internal budding. External budding, you have seen example of east. Now I am showing a one more example of budding as a external budding, that is a hydra. In hydra you can see the diagram. From the base of the hydra there is a formation of a bud, and when the bud is going to mature it detached from the parent body and there is a formation of the new hydra. So what happens here? There is a formation of bud externally over the body. So it is what? It is an external budding. Now you see the second diagram, lowest diagram, that is the uh, internal budding. This is the diagram that I am showing. This is the for the sponges, and the diagram is showing about the internal budding means gemmules. Internal, another name of the internal budding is the gemmules, and it especially takes place where in the sponges. In the sponges there is what? There is a formation of a bud inside the sponge body, and when the sponge the bud is going to be mature they come out from the body and forms the new sponges. So and that new sponges grow into the mature ones. So that's what I am trying to say. It just bud formation is take place inside the body, that's why it's known as the internal budding. Now see the top two diagram of this PPT. One is showing the zoospore formation. Example is the chlamydomonas, and in that what happens? There is a formation of a spore in the parent body, inside the parent body, and when the formation completed means all the spores are present inside the chlamydomonas, that time what happens? The plasma membrane of the chlamydomonas burst and all the spores come out. And if you see the diagram, all the spores are having a flagella, and these, when the spores are having a flagella, that time we call it as a zoospores, and it takes place mostly where in the chlamydomonas. Another diagram is showing over here is the penicillium. Penicillium, what happens? In the penicillium there is a formation of conidia. Penicillium is one of the fungus, you know very well. This is the example of fungus, and fungus is having a body in the form of mycelium, means the body of the fungus is known as the mycelium. So what happens? At the top of the mycelium there is a formation of a spore like structure, and that spores like structures they divide one into two, two into four, like that, and just attach to each other like a pile. And what happens? And these spores, those who are attaching to each other, in case of penicillium we call it as a conidia, and these conidia if they fall on the ground they just form into the new mycelium body of the penicillium, and we call it as one of the asexual mode. That asexual mode is the spore formation. By asexual mode is what? The by the spore formation it takes place, so that's why it comes in a category of sporulation. So you see that in Chlamydomonas there is a formation of new individual by the spore formation that we call as a zoospores. In Penicillium, if you see the formation of a new individual, it again by the spores that we call as a conidia. So what is the difference between the zoospores and conidia? You can see very well by the diagram. If you see the zoospores, the zoospores are having a flagella. It means they are they are motile. If you see the conidia, they don't have any flagella or motile structure. It means they are non-motile. Again, there is a one major difference between the zoospores and conidia. Zoospores are endogenous, means spore formation takes place inside the body. And if you see the penicillium, so conidia formation takes place above the body or over the body. So what is the spore formation? In case of zoospore is the endogenous, and spore formation in case of penicillium is exogenous. So this is a major difference between the zoospores and conidia, and it comes in category of asexual mode again. So in this module, what we have learned? We have learned actually cell division is itself a mode of reproduction. If you see the binary fission, what was going on? The cell is dividing. If you see the multiple fission, again there is a division of the cell. If you see the east, there was a what, there was a division in where in the cell. If you see the special cases, for example zoospore formation, conidia formation, so again there is what, there is a division of the cell. So principally if you talk about the asexual mode, in asexual mode just followed by a type of division, that cell division, and comes a type of category that we call as a mitosis. So in this module, we have learned a little bit information, or very brief information about the asexual mode in animals. And when we will go to the next module, that time we will discuss about the asexual mode in plants. Thank you.